humanity's rage ignited. The day aliens realized they went too far. HFY. Sci-fi story the day the aliens arrived. Earth did not celebrate. There were no fireworks, no cheering crowds, and no songs of joy. Instead, there was silence. Satellites watched the dark shape slide out of space, slow and heavy, like a shadow that did not belong to the stars. The ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. It did not glow or flash. It simply appeared and stopped above the moon, as if space itself had made room for it. Every screen on Earth showed the same image. People stopped walking. Cars slowed. Voices went quiet. Inside the Global Council Hall, leaders from many nations sat in a wide circle. They had trained for this moment for years, but now that it was real, training felt useless. Director Hale stood near the center screen. He was not old, but his face looked tired. He had spent his life preparing for threats from Earth, not from the sky. A soft signal tone echoed through the room. The alien transmission began. The being on the screen did not look human, but it also did not look like a monster. Its body was tall and thin, covered in smooth gray skin. Its eyes were black and unblinking. When it spoke, the voice was calm, slow, and perfectly translated. "We are the Velrix Order," it said. "We have observed your species for many cycles. You are now ready to receive guidance." The word guidance made several leaders shift in their seats. The alien continued, "You will reduce your weapons in space. You will allow our observers into your cities. You will follow our rules for shared survival." Director Hale leaned forward. "You are asking us to surrender control of our planet." The alien's head tilted slightly. "We are preventing your self-destruction." This is a gift." Across the world, people listened. Some felt relief. Some felt fear. A few felt anger, though they did not yet know why. In a small engineering center far from the council hall, a man named Noah watched the broadcast on a cracked screen. He worked in orbital systems, the kind that kept old stations alive long after budgets ran dry. He listened carefully to the alien's words, and something about the tone made his hands curl into fists. "They talk like we are children," he muttered. Nearby, Captain Rian stood with her arms crossed. She had spent years protecting supply routes in space. She knew threats when she heard them. "They are smiling without smiling," she said. "That is never good." The Velrix Order did not wait long for an answer. Within hours, their ships moved closer to Earth's orbit. Hours passed. They did not attack. They did not even aim weapons. They simply arrived where they were not invited. Human ships were told to stand down. Velrix patrol craft floated near major stations, watching, waiting. At first, nothing terrible happened. Trade continued. Cities stayed bright. People tried to return to normal life, but the feeling did not go away. 3 days later, an unmanned human satellite sent out a sudden alert. Its signal spiked, then broke apart into static. The feed switched to a wide view of space just in time to show the satellite split in half by a single beam of light. The Velrix broadcast followed immediately. "That device violated orbital restrictions," the alien voice said. "This was a correction. No warning. No apology." Director Hale stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "It was unarmed." "It was disobedient," the alien replied. Across Earth, fear finally found a shape. Protests began in major cities. People demanded answers. Some called for peace at any cost. Others demanded resistance. The Velrix observers arrived anyway, walking through streets with calm steps, ignoring angry stares. In one city, a Velrix unit shut down an entire power grid after local officials refused entry to a control center. Hospitals went dark for minutes. Traffic systems failed. The aliens called it a reminder. Dr. Lena, a data analyst working in deep space monitoring, noticed patterns that others missed. She saw Velrix ships drifting near resource zones, scanning quietly. "They are measuring us," she told her supervisor. "Not just watching, planning." The warning was filed. Nothing changed. The Velrix leader spoke again to the world. "You will adapt," it said. "Resistance will only slow progress." The words were calm, but they landed like a hand closing around a throat. Captain Rian was ordered to pull her patrol fleet back to Earth orbit. She obeyed, but her crew could feel the tension in her silence. "They think we are weak," one officer said quietly. "They think we are finished," Rian replied. Noah stayed late at the station, running numbers no one had asked for. He looked at old ship designs, outdated engines, forgotten systems. He saw flaws, yes, but also possibilities. "They don't know how stubborn we are," he whispered to the empty room. The final moment that changed everything came without warning. A human evacuation convoy was moving between orbital zones, carrying civilians away from a disputed station. The ships were clearly marked. Their routes had been shared. Velrix patrol craft appeared. The human commander sent a request for safe passage. The response came cold and fast. "Your movement is unauthorized." Before another word could be sent, Velrix weapons fired. 2 transport ships vanished in bright flashes. Screams filled open channels. The feed cut out, but not before millions saw the burning wreckage spin into darkness. The Velrix broadcast followed once more. Correction complete. Across Earth, something broke. People stopped arguing. Government stopped debating. Fear turned into rage, quiet and deep. Director Hale closed his eyes as the reports came in. When he opened them, his voice was steady. "We will not answer today," he said, "but we will remember." In hidden rooms, locked hangars, and forgotten shipyards, humans began to move. Not in panic, not in chaos, but with purpose. The Velrix Order believed the lesson was over. They had no idea it had just begun. The days after the attack were quiet, but the quiet was heavy. Cities tried to return to normal life, but something had shifted. People walked with their heads up, but their eyes were sharp. Streets were busy, but conversations carried fear and anger in equal measure. The Velrix Order did not slow down. Their ships floated above the atmosphere, calm, almost casual, as if they owned every inch of the sky. They watched, waiting to see how humanity would respond. In the middle of the capital city, Dr. Lena worked in her lab, analyzing patterns in alien movements. She noticed something that others had missed. The Velrix were not only monitoring human communications, they were also studying resource deposits, energy outputs, and military readiness. It was as if every human activity was being logged and measured. She tapped her screen, trying to calculate how long it would take for the aliens to have a complete map of Earth's defenses. The answer made her stomach twist. "They are planning something," she whispered to herself. "Something big." Meanwhile, Captain Rian led a small fleet of human patrol ships, trying to maintain order in space. Each time they tried to maneuver near a Velrix craft, the aliens would block them effortlessly. Rianne had trained her team for years, but even the best strategies seemed fragile under the alien presence. Still, she did not show weakness. Her calm voice carried across the comm channels as she issued orders. "We stay alert," she said. "We follow protocols, and we watch everything. Nothing moves without our notice." In a hidden command center, Director Hale called for a meeting with top human engineers, military leaders, and scientists. Noah was there, along with a group of civilians who had experience in shipbuilding and orbital technology. Hale did not waste time with speeches. He presented the latest reports. "The Velrics are mapping everything," Hale said. "Every city, every station, every weapon. They are testing our patience and our limits. If we wait too long, it will be too late to respond." Noah leaned forward. "We can't match them in numbers. Their ships are faster, stronger, and smarter, but we can do something they do not expect. They underestimate humans because we are unpredictable." Hale nodded slowly. "Then, we need unpredictability. Every movement they watch must be a trap. Every weakness they measure must be an illusion." While humans prepared in secret, the Velrics continued their enforcement. They demanded access to every government building. They insisted that certain districts reduce energy use and turn over control to alien monitors. When local officials resisted, Velric's patrol units cut power and communications, leaving entire cities in darkness. Hospitals ran on emergency power. Factories stopped. Transportation grids failed. The aliens called it necessary compliance, but humans saw it for what it was: intimidation. In one small town, a Velrix unit entered a power station. Local engineers tried to explain that shutting down the grid would harm civilians, but the aliens ignored them. As the station went dark, panic spread. Emergency crews moved frantically to keep water, heat, and medical systems running. People began to whisper about a single truth: the aliens were testing humanity, pushing to see how far fear could control them. In orbit, Captain Rian received a signal from the Velrics. "Unauthorized transmissions detected. Human channels will be monitored continuously. Any attempt to communicate without permission is forbidden." Her hand tightened around the controls. "They think silence will stop us," she muttered. "They have no idea." Noah and Dr. Lena worked through nights, studying patterns of Velric's patrols. They discovered that the aliens had blind spots in their coverage. A moment here, a route there, and human ships could move without immediate detection. The problem was that the Velrics adapted quickly. Any mistake meant destruction. Still, Lena found hope in these weaknesses. "They are precise, but not perfect," she said. "If we act carefully, we can gather information and protect our people." While the humans worked, the Velrics made a brutal demonstration. They fired on an evacuation convoy near a disputed orbital station. The ships were clearly marked, clearly civilian, and they were following instructions to move away from conflict zones. Yet the aliens attacked without hesitation. Explosions lit the void, and screams were broadcast live across human channels. The public reaction was immediate. Across Earth, people gathered in squares, in front of screens, in small homes. They watched and listened. The sense of shock transformed into anger. Governments struggled to calm citizens, but calm was impossible now. Rage had found its way into the hearts of every observer. Director Hale spoke to the council, his face grave but firm. "We cannot fight them openly yet, but we can fight smart. Every ship, every station, every hidden project is now part of our plan. The Velrex think they have broken us, but they have only awakened something they do not understand. Captain Rian and Noah met later in a secure facility. They studied ship blueprints and discussed strategies in low voices. They believe humans fear them, Rian said. They believe silence equals submission. They are wrong. Noah nodded. We move carefully. We prepare quietly. And when the time comes, we make them regret ever underestimating us. Even as humans prepared, the Velrex continued their control. They blocked trade routes. They forced cities to ration energy. They stationed their observers in schools, offices, and homes. The message was clear. Humans were not free, not equal, not trusted. In hidden labs and old shipyards, engineers began to retrofit old vessels. They scavenged what technology they could, blending human creativity with stubborn determination. Ships that were once slow became faster. Engines that were once fragile became more resilient. Every upgrade was a message to the Velrex. Humans would adapt, and humans would resist. Back on Earth, Dr. Lena discovered that the Velrex were secretly harvesting resources from the Moon and Mars. They had ships moving silently, taking materials without anyone noticing. This information was critical. It showed that the aliens had no intention of peace. They were treating Earth and its nearby worlds as a farm, a resource to be stripped. This is worse than we thought, Lena said to her team. They don't just want control. They want everything. Meanwhile, in orbit, Captain Rian noticed unusual movements in Velrex patrols. Ships that had been stable suddenly shifted formation. Communication patterns changed. The aliens were reacting to human adaptation, though they did not realize it yet. In one private moment, she spoke quietly to herself. They are learning too late. Humanity does not surrender easily. The first sparks of resistance began to appear. Small groups of volunteers trained in secret. Engineers, pilots, and civilians joined forces, preparing for the moment when silence would no longer be enough. They learned to hide, to signal, to move in ways the Velrex could not predict. Director Hale watched these developments with cautious hope. We have lost much, he said, but we have not lost our courage. And courage, once awake, cannot be contained. By the end of the week, the public had begun to whisper stories. Children spoke of brave pilots, hidden heroes, and secret operations. Rumors spread of humans who moved undetected through the Velrex surveillance. Hope and defiance mixed in a way the aliens could not yet measure. The Velrex continued their operations, believing they had control. They monitored channels, enforced rules, and punished disobedience. But what they did not see was the quiet human fury building everywhere, in labs and hangars, in homes, in the hearts of ordinary people. Rage was no longer just an emotion. It was becoming a weapon, and humanity waited, patient and silent, knowing that when the time came, the first human answer would be swift, clever, and unstoppable. The Velrex thought the lesson was over. Humanity knew the lesson had only just begun. The silence after the Velrex attack had grown heavy, but it was not empty. Humans worked quietly, in shadows, in places the aliens never noticed. Old shipyards, abandoned factories, and underground labs became centers of preparation. Every engineer, scientist, and pilot who could contribute had a place, and every skill mattered. They moved with a single purpose, even if the Velrex believed they were still weak and afraid. Noah spent hours in one such hidden shipyard. The machines were old, parts were scarce, and the resources were limited, but creativity and determination filled the gaps. He and a small team took ships that were meant to serve only as transport and transformed them. Engines were strengthened, hulls reinforced with layers of human-engineered alloys, and control systems were modified to react faster than the Velryx could predict. Every ship became a puzzle the aliens could not solve until it was too late. Captain Rian walked through the hangar, observing her team. Young pilots, some barely out of training, were learning to operate these modified vessels. The Velryx had assumed humans would fight as they expected, in formation, in strict lines, predictable and manageable. But Rian had other plans. She emphasized unpredictability, surprise, and courage over obedience. "They will never see us coming," she said. "We do not fight as they expect. We fight as we are. Humans adapt." Meanwhile, Dr. Lena worked on communication systems and data collection. Every Velryx movement, every broadcast, every signal was recorded and analyzed. Patterns emerged, showing blind spots in alien patrols and weaknesses in their coordination. These were small, almost invisible opportunities, but for humans who moved carefully, they were enough. In one observation room, Lena pointed at a screen. "See here? They leave a gap between patrol routes at this time every day. If we act here, they won't notice until it's too late." Noah nodded. "It is small, but it is enough." They believe control comes from numbers and technology. We have something they cannot calculate: cleverness, stubbornness, and timing. On the surface of Earth, people were also preparing. Small militias of civilians trained in secret. Communications specialists, engineers, and even ordinary citizens learned how to protect themselves and their neighborhoods. They understood that the Velryx did not see humanity as a threat yet. That mistake gave humans an advantage. In orbit, Captain Rian's fleet practiced maneuvers that confused even her own team at first. Ships moved in zigzags and spirals and in unpredictable patterns. They practiced disappearing from sensors and reappearing in places the Velryx did not expect. Every movement was tested and recorded, and every mistake became a lesson. For the first time since the aliens arrived, a Velryx patrol was disrupted. A scout ship had moved too close to a hidden human fleet. The humans used a combination of electromagnetic interference and unexpected maneuvers to force the scout ship to retreat. It did not fire. It could not. Its systems were confused in ways it had never experienced. Captain Rian allowed herself a small smile. "They think humans are weak," she said quietly. "They do not know what we are capable of yet." But the Velryx were not entirely blind. Their systems adapted slowly, and their patrols became tighter. They did not yet understand the human spirit, the willingness to endure, to learn, and to fight back in ways no algorithm could predict. Director Hale watched reports come in from every hidden base. He saw the small victories: disrupted patrols, hidden supply lines, successful tests of modified ships. Each victory was minor, but each one strengthened the human network. "We are still invisible," he said to his team. "For now, they do not know what is happening. That is our advantage. We must use it carefully. Every action must count." In one secret lab, Dr. Lena discovered something disturbing. The Velryx were not only mapping Earth, but they were also gathering resources from nearby planets and moons. Ships moved silently, extracting materials from the Moon, Mars, and even asteroid fields. Their goal was clear. They intended to use Earth as a base, a source of power and materials, not as a partner. "This is not about peace," Lena said. "They never wanted peace. They want control and extraction. If we do not act, they will take everything." Noah and Rian studied the data with her. Then we have to be ready, Rian said. Not just to defend, but to fight smart, to show them that humans cannot be taken lightly. Small acts of resistance began to appear. Civilian ships moved secret supplies through asteroid belts. Engineers repaired damaged stations without alerting Velrix sensors. Volunteers distributed energy and resources in ways that confused alien monitors. Humans had learned patience, observation, and subtlety. But the Velrix remained confident. They believed humans could not act as a unified force. They thought fear had silenced Earth. Every broadcast from alien leaders carried the same calm tone. Compliance would bring safety, resistance would bring destruction. The Velrix did not see the silent network forming beneath the surface. They did not see humans learning, adapting, preparing, and they did not notice the quiet fire growing in every person who had lost family, friends, or hope to alien attacks. One night, as the Earth turned below them, Captain Rian led a test flight. A group of human pilots practiced weaving through a Velrix patrol route using small sensor-blocking devices and unpredictable patterns. Ships disappeared from radar, reappeared unexpectedly, and completed maneuvers that seemed impossible. When they returned to base, the team was exhausted but exhilarated. They had proven a simple truth. Humans could move where the aliens could not predict. They could act when the Velrix believed they were frozen in fear. Noah reviewed data from the exercise. "It is not enough to match them in force," he said. "We must be smarter, faster, and willing to take risks they would never understand." The Velrix continued their work above Earth. They adjusted patrols, monitored cities, and maintained a calm facade. They thought humanity was contained, compliant, and predictable. They were wrong. In secret corners of cities, engineers and civilians built communication devices, hidden supply caches, and small defensive systems. Every action, no matter how small, was a part of a larger plan. Humans were learning to move like water, flexible, patient, and unstoppable. Director Hale observed the progress. Every person who works in secret, every ship that moves undetected, every calculation we make is a step toward freedom, he said. The Velrix think they are teaching us lessons, but we are learning too. They underestimate what it means to fight for your home, your family, and your future. The first signs of human action had already confused Velrix patrols. Ships that should have been predictable disappeared from tracking grids. Supply routes reappeared in places the aliens did not expect. Communications that had been monitored suddenly went dark, only to reappear with coded messages of coordination. Humanity was silent, but the silence was growing sharp. It was a warning that could not yet be heard, but would one day strike with full force. In hidden labs, Noah, Rian, and Lena planned the next moves. They studied Velrix systems, weaknesses, and patterns. They trained volunteers, repaired ships, and ensured that when the time came, humans would act with precision and courage. Across the world, ordinary citizens learned to endure and to resist quietly. They carried messages, repaired equipment, and supported the hidden network. Every small act mattered. Adam Button. Every small act became part of a larger plan that the Velrix could not yet see. And still, above Earth, the alien ships floated, calm and unchallenged. They had no idea the patience, ingenuity, and silent fury growing below would soon become a force they could not ignore. Humans had been tested. Humans had been hurt. But in the shadows, behind closed doors, and in hidden corners of the universe, they were learning to fight in ways the Velrix would never expect. The first real human answer was taking shape, quiet, clever, and unstoppable. and the Velrics had no idea it was coming. Humanity waited, patient and unbroken, knowing that one day the silence would end and the fire they had hidden for so long would burn brighter than anything the Velrics had ever seen. The first human strike came without warning. For years, the Velrics had watched, assuming humanity would remain predictable, cautious, and afraid. They had not noticed the countless hours humans had spent preparing, planning, and learning. They had underestimated patience, creativity, and stubbornness. Captain Rian led the operation. Her fleet was small, only a fraction of what the Velrics considered a threat, but each ship was modified, equipped with hidden systems, and piloted by those who had trained in secret for months. The plan was simple in concept, but risky. Disrupt a Velric's patrol, gather intelligence, and return without detection. Success would prove humans were no longer silent. Eyes. Failure would mean destruction. As the human ships left the hidden hangars, Earth watched in secrecy. Families who had helped with supplies, engineers who had repaired engines, and volunteers who had maintained communications knew this was the first step toward reclaiming their world. Every heartbeat echoed in unison. The humans would fight, and they would not yield. The Velric's patrol had been monitoring a region near Mars. They believed it was secure, confident that their sensors could detect any movement. The humans approached quietly, weaving through asteroid belts and using solar flares to mask their presence. The Velrics did not notice the small fleet until it was almost too late. The first engagement was subtle. A Velric scout ship drifted near a human sensor device, which emitted a pulse designed to confuse alien systems. The scout's engines stalled briefly, then powered back up, unable to identify the source. The humans moved swiftly, capturing information from the scout before it could report back. Captain Ryan spoke calmly into her comm. "Remember, precision. Do not reveal yourselves. Collect what you can and return." The fleet advanced. Every move was calculated, yet human instincts allowed flexibility. When one ship encountered unexpected resistance, another adjusted and blocked the path. When one system failed, a pilot compensated instinctively. The Velrics had never faced an enemy that adapted so quickly. In orbit around Mars, human engineers had installed hidden relay devices that transmitted false signals. Velric ships scanned, expecting to find threats in specific patterns. Instead, they encountered empty space. Systems recalculated, then recalculated again, unable to track the humans accurately. Noah monitored the operation from a secure command center on Earth. He watched the data streams, nerves tight, knowing one mistake could destroy the fleet. Yet he also felt a surge of pride. Humans had done the impossible. They had learned to fight like the Velrics never expected, using intelligence, speed, and courage rather than brute force. The first human strike ended without a single ship lost. Patrols were disrupted, data collected, and the Velrics were confused. They could not understand why their systems, designed to be infallible, had failed. Dr. Lena analyzed the data immediately. She discovered weaknesses the Velrics had not noticed, gaps in communication patterns, and vulnerabilities in their patrol routines. These discoveries would be used to train more pilots and improve future missions. The Velric sent broadcasts across human channels demanding explanation, claiming unauthorized interference. Their tone was calm, but a note of uncertainty had entered. They had never faced humans who could act so deliberately, so cleverly, and without fear. On Earth, the population learned of the strike quietly, through secure networks. The news spread not as propaganda, but as hope. People whispered stories of brave pilots who had struck where the Velrics believed they were untouchable. Families cheered in private, engineers smiled quietly, and even children sensed a change. Humanity had moved from fear to action. Captain Rian prepared for the next mission. The first success had shown them what was possible, but she knew it was only the beginning. Each operation had to be smarter, faster, and more unpredictable. Meanwhile, the Velrics reassessed their approach. Alien leaders convened, speaking in a language humans could not hear. The council was tense. They had always expected obedience from every species they encountered, and yet here were humans, small in number, daring to strike first and succeed. One Velric's commander spoke to another. They adapt too quickly. Their movements are not predictable. This species is dangerous. The others did not understand why this was so, but instinct told them something they had never felt before. Fear. Not fear of defeat, but fear of underestimating humanity. On Earth, engineers like Noah and Dr. Lena worked tirelessly. Every ship recovered data from the first strike was analyzed. Every communication pulse was studied. They learned what had worked and what had almost failed. Volunteers were trained, and hidden bases were reinforced. Even as humans planned, life on Earth continued. Streets were still tense, cities still monitored by Velric's observers, and people still cautious. But under the surface, a quiet confidence was growing. Humans were no longer passive. They were no longer waiting to be controlled. The Velrics, unaware of the full scale of preparation, made a miscalculation. Their patrols became tighter in response to the first strike, believing humans were desperate and uncoordinated. This adjustment created new blind spots, which humans exploited. Supply lines were moved, hidden relays activated, and small teams slipped through undetected. Captain Rian led a second operation, this time to disrupt communications between Velric's patrols near the asteroid belt. The fleet moved as a single unit, yet each ship acted independently. Signals were jammed, systems overloaded, and the Velrics were forced to retreat temporarily. The humans returned home safely, and the operation was hailed as another victory, even if it remained hidden from the public eye. Director Hale spoke to the Secret Council. The Velrics will begin to notice patterns soon. We must evolve faster than they can react. Every mission, every move, must be unpredictable. Our greatest strength is our ability to think, adapt, and act with courage. Meanwhile, Dr. Lena discovered a critical flaw in Velric's sensor technology. It was subtle, almost invisible, but exploitable. Human engineers began designing tools to use the flaw against the aliens, giving future fleets a tactical advantage. As the days passed, small victories multiplied. Human actions were not yet large enough to drive the Velrics from Earth, but the first seeds of fear were planted. Alien commanders began whispering among themselves, confused by the persistence, ingenuity, and audacity of humans. Captain Rian knew that the first real confrontation would come eventually. She trained her pilots to expect everything, to adapt instantly, and to strike decisively. Every flight, every drill, every calculation prepared them for the day humans would no longer hide. And the day was approaching. The Velrics had always believed fear could control humanity. They had been wrong. Humans were learning to fight with intelligence and courage. Each operation strengthened networks, trained minds, and built confidence. Each success reminded humans that even a small force, when clever and determined, could challenge the might of an empire. Noah reviewed data late one night. They think they control us. They think silence and threats will stop us. They do not know what is coming. Doctor. Lena looked at him and nodded. Soon they will understand. Too late. Even as humans celebrated small victories in secret, the Velrics began to shift strategy. Alien ships were more alert, more aggressive, and more unpredictable. They had felt the first sting of human action, and it scared them, though they did not yet admit it. The stage was set for a larger clash. Humans were no longer hiding. They had learned to strike, to adapt, and to exploit every weakness. The Velrics had begun to see that Earth was not a passive planet. It was a world capable of resistance, intelligence, and courage. Captain Rian looked at her fleet as they prepared for the next mission. "This is just the beginning," she said. "They will learn that humans do not surrender. They will learn that patience and courage can become a weapon no one expects." And above Earth, alien ships waited, unaware that the humans beneath them were no longer the same species they had first encountered. Humanity had begun its fight. It was quiet, careful, and precise, but it would not remain silent for long. The first human strikes had shown the Velrics their mistake. Humans were not weak. Humans were not predictable. And humanity's answer, once fully unleashed, would change everything. The Velrics had underestimated a single truth. When humanity fights back, it does so with a fire that cannot be measured, predicted, or controlled. And that fire was only growing. The human resistance had grown beyond what the Velrics expected. Small victories had turned into organized operations, and intelligence gathered from earlier strikes gave humans an edge the aliens could not understand. Captain Rian led a fleet larger than before, composed of newly modified ships, each equipped with hidden systems and clever traps designed to confuse the Velrics. Every pilot, engineer, and volunteer understood the stakes. They were no longer defending only Earth. They were defending humanity itself. The Velrics had begun to take notice. Alien patrols were tighter, communications were encrypted, and reinforcements were sent to key positions. They assumed that humans would panic under pressure, that fear would silence them as it had for years. They did not know that humans had learned to act despite fear, to think clearly under pressure, and to fight with a determination that no algorithm could measure. Dr. Lena worked tirelessly in her lab analyzing signals, plotting enemy positions, and finding new ways to exploit weaknesses. Every successful human operation brought more data. Every small victory taught them how the Velrics thought and reacted. Lena's discoveries were shared immediately with Captain Rian and Noah, who coordinated attacks and strategies. Noah studied the Velric supply lines and discovered vulnerabilities in the outer system. The alien ships relied on fixed routes to transport resources and maintain patrols. By predicting their movements, humans could strike strategically, disrupting their operations without risking full confrontations. It was precision, not brute force, that became humanity's weapon. The first major strike in this new phase targeted a key supply convoy near the asteroid belt. Human ships moved in tight formations, using speed and surprise to their advantage. Sensors were blocked, decoys deployed, and the convoy was intercepted before it could reach Velric stations. Supplies were captured, systems damaged, and several ships were left drifting as warnings. Captain Rian watched from the lead vessel. "Do not stop," she ordered. "Move quickly and unpredictably. They will not expect this level of coordination." The Velrics were caught off guard. Their communications were disrupted, and some of their ships became trapped in unexpected positions. Panic began to ripple through their fleets, though the aliens tried to hide it. They had never faced an enemy that combined courage, intelligence, and adaptability in such a way. Back on Earth, Director Hale and his team monitored the strikes. News of successes was kept from the public, but internally, morale soared. Engineers who had built ships, civilians who had maintained hidden supply lines, and volunteers who had trained for months all knew their efforts had mattered. Every small act of preparation had led to this moment. Even as humans celebrated, Dr. Lena noticed something troubling. The Velrics were adapting. Patrol patterns shifted more quickly. Sensors became more sensitive, and responses grew aggressive. Every human advantage had a shelf life. They had to strike faster and more cleverly, or the moment could be lost. Noah and Rian planned the next move. A coordinated attack near a Velrix mining station on the moon. This station was critical to the aliens, and disrupting it would have both strategic and psychological effects. The fleet prepared, each ship equipped with new systems designed to exploit weaknesses Lena had discovered. Pilots reviewed their routes, practiced maneuvers, and memorized contingencies. The human fleet moved silently, using asteroid belts and lunar shadows to conceal their approach. Velric sensors detected some movement, but it was misinterpreted as minor adjustments. Humans were already in position when the Velrics realized their mistake. The attack began with precision strikes on communication arrays, leaving the station isolated. Transport ships carrying resources were intercepted and disabled. Human pilots coordinated their movements with an almost instinctive understanding of the enemy's reactions. The Velrics tried to respond, but every countermeasure was anticipated. Captain Rian led the final phase. Human ships approached the station itself, using hidden systems to disable defensive turrets without firing a single shot. Engineers on Earth remotely guided the operation, ensuring systems operated flawlessly. In minutes, the station was neutralized. Supplies were captured, and human forces withdrew before Velric's reinforcements could arrive. The psychological impact on the Velrics was immediate. Reports to their command council showed confusion and unexpected losses. Alien leaders realized that humans were no longer predictable, no longer silent, and no longer afraid. Panic began to spread in their ranks, though pride and discipline prevented it from showing externally. On Earth, the hidden councils understood what had been achieved. Humanity had demonstrated that even with fewer numbers and limited technology, clever planning, courage, and unity could challenge the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. Engineers, pilots, and volunteers all felt a quiet triumph, but victory came at a cost. Several human ships were damaged and some pilots were injured. Supply lines were stretched thin, and the constant stress of secret operations weighed heavily on everyone involved. Despite these challenges, morale remained high. Humans had proven they could fight back. The Velrics were changing tactics. They increased patrols, improved sensor arrays, and tried to anticipate human strikes. But every adjustment created new opportunities. Humans had learned to move unpredictably, to act in ways the Velrics could not calculate, and to exploit mistakes immediately. Lena discovered another opportunity. The Velrics had overextended some patrols to cover key routes. This left isolated stations vulnerable. Using this information, Captain Rian and Noah planned a series of small operations to disrupt resource gathering and communications further. Each operation was calculated to minimize human losses while maximizing disruption. The next weeks were a cycle of preparation, strike, and analysis. Human forces grew more skilled, more coordinated, and more confident. Every success was a lesson for the next mission. The Velrics, meanwhile, were forced to react, adjusting strategies and growing increasingly frustrated. They began to recognize that humanity was not just surviving, they were challenging control. In private moments, Captain Rian reminded her pilots why they fought. "This is more than survival," she said. We protect our families, our home, and our future. The Velrics believe they can break us, but they do not understand what it means to fight for humanity. Noah worked alongside engineers to refine ship systems. Every improvement we make is another step toward freedom, he said. They cannot predict human creativity. That is our advantage. Doctor. Lena focused on intelligence gathering. We cannot fight blindly, she said. We must know their patterns, weaknesses, and limits. Only then can we strike effectively. Together, the hidden human network began to feel unstoppable. They had learned that courage and intelligence could overcome fear. They had learned that patience could become a weapon, and they had learned that even small actions, when coordinated, could challenge an empire. The Velrics began to whisper among themselves, unsure how to respond. They had expected compliance, fear, and silence. Instead, they faced coordination, cleverness, and courage. Humanity was no longer predictable. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer afraid. And the first real human answer had already begun. Humanity had learned, adapted, and fought back. After years of preparation, quiet resistance, and small victories, the time had come to make a statement. The Velrics had believed that humans could be broken, controlled, or ignored. They were wrong. Every strike, every hidden operation, and every act of courage had taught humans how to fight smart, fast, and united. Captain Ryan led the final fleet. It was larger than any operation before, yet each ship was stealthy, unpredictable, and guided by intelligence from Dr. Lena and Noah. The mission was not to conquer, but to deliver a message. The Velrics had taken too much, destroyed too much, and underestimated too much. Humanity would respond not with surrender, but with undeniable force and clarity. As the fleet moved through space, the Earth below remained calm. Civilians and volunteers continued their work, unaware of the full scale of the final operation. Families prepared, engineers adjusted supply lines, and hidden networks ensured that every move was coordinated. The patience of humanity had built a web that stretched from the surface of Earth to the outer asteroid fields. The Velrics fleet, stationed near a key resource point beyond Mars, believed they were secure. Their sensors had been improved, their patrols tightened, and they assumed the humans would act predictably. They were wrong. Oa monitored the approach. They will see us coming, but they will not know how to respond, he said. Everything we have done leads to this moment. Dr. Lena coordinated interference with Velrics communications. Signals were scrambled, decoys activated, and patrols misdirected. The aliens tried to adapt, but their calculations could not account for human unpredictability, courage, and coordination. Captain Ryan spoke to her fleet, calm but firm. Remember everything we have learned. We strike with precision, we move with courage, and we act as one. Humanity's message will be clear. We will not bow, we will not surrender, and we will be heard. The human ships struck with careful timing. Resource ships were intercepted, communication hubs disabled, and patrols disrupted. No human ship was lost, and no civilian vessel was harmed. Every move was calculated to demonstrate capability, control, and restraint. The Velrics realized too late that they were facing a force they could not predict. The first shock to the Velrics came when human engineers remotely guided a captured Velrics flagship back toward alien space. Inside, recordings showed every violation the aliens had committed: attacks on civilians, resource theft, and manipulations. The message was clear. Humanity had not forgotten, and humanity would not forgive. Director Hale addressed the Human Council. This is not conquest. It is a warning. We are not your subjects. We are not weak. We are humans. We will defend ourselves, our home, and our future at any cost. The Velrix Command Council received the flagship and its evidence. Confusion turned into panic as they realized that humans had not only fought back, but had done so in a way that exposed the aliens to the galaxy. Other species had begun observing. Humanity had transformed from a subject of curiosity into a warning to all who underestimated it. Captain Rian led her fleet back toward Earth. The operations had succeeded beyond expectations. Humans had proven their skill, intelligence, and courage. The Velrix would retreat for now, but the lesson had been delivered. Humanity was not to be ignored, controlled, or underestimated. On Earth, people emerged from hiding. Streets were calm but alive with quiet celebration. Engineers, pilots, and volunteers shared smiles and stories. Children looked up at the sky and imagined heroes in hidden ships. Families hugged quietly. Humanity had survived, adapted, and delivered its message to the stars. Noah and Dr. Lena watched reports from the final mission. They had collected every piece of intelligence possible. They had shown that humans could act decisively, intelligently, and courageously, even against an empire. "We have done more than defend ourselves," Lena said. "We have shown the galaxy who humans are." The Velrix retreated, broken in pride and confidence. They had underestimated humanity's patience, ingenuity, and courage. Across the galaxy, other species noted the defeat of the Velrix in a confrontation they had not expected. Humanity's name spread quietly, as a species to respect and not to challenge lightly. Captain Rian addressed her fleet privately. "We did not fight because we hate them. We fought because we exist. We fought because Earth belongs to us. We fought because humans do not bow when pushed too far." On Earth, Director Hale reflected on the months of struggle. Humanity had been tested, attacked, and underestimated. But the response had been clear. Intelligence, courage, and determination could overcome fear and oppression. The Velrix had learned that lesson. The galaxy had learned it too. Small teams began repairing damaged systems and helping those affected by the Velrix attacks. Hidden supply networks ensured energy, water, and food reached every city. The human network, once secret, became a symbol of unity and resourcefulness. Humanity had not only survived, it had grown stronger. The final moment came when the captured Velrix flagship, carrying evidence and a human statement, moved silently through alien space. The message was simple. Humanity would defend itself, protect its home, and never be underestimated again. The galaxy watched quietly as the aliens absorbed the warning. Humans had won without destroying a world, without unnecessary bloodshed, and without yielding their values. They had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could defeat an empire, even one far more powerful. They had shown that when humanity fights, it does so not with recklessness, but with strategy, patience, and fire that cannot be measured. Director Hale spoke to the Secret Council one final time. "We have sent a message that cannot be ignored. The Velrix will retreat, but the lesson remains. Humanity is patient, intelligent, and courageous. Ha 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 ha. We survive, we adapt, and we fight when pushed too far. This is who we are." Captain Rian looked to the stars from her ship. The Velrix thought they controlled the sky. They thought we were weak. They thought silence meant submission. They were wrong. We are humans, and humans never bow when their home and future are at stake. Earth remained standing, scarred but unbroken. Humanity had endured, resisted, and triumphed. The Velrics would remember the day they underestimated humans. The galaxy would remember the species that refused to surrender, that adapted, and that fought back smarter, faster, and braver than any enemy had expected. And humanity had only begun to show its true strength. The fire that had been quiet for so long now burned brightly, a signal to the stars. Never underestimate humans, for when they fight with a courage and intelligence that cannot be broken. Humanity's rage had been ignited. The Velrics had learned the cost of their arrogance. The galaxy had witnessed a species that refused to bow. And Earth had shown that when humans are pushed too far, they rise stronger, fiercer, and unstoppable. The future belonged to humans, and the stars would never forget it.